Well, welcome everybody to our online program on addiction and recovery from the Sunshine Coast Health Center up here in Powell River, BC. And we've been trying to understand why it is that most of the people who complete a residential treatment center for addiction, or the mainstream, why it is that they relapse, they go back to the drug. Because on the face of it, it sounds very odd. I mean, they tell us they're getting healthier, they feel more confident, less guilt, and then somehow the drugs have an attraction to them. I mean, it's a curious thing. And so we've been talking about some ideas from meaning therapy, this concept that we use at our center, that perhaps addiction is a response to living a life that lacks personal meaning. And therefore, maybe one of the key things is to go out and find a life that is fulfilling and rewarding, and that way the purpose of the drug is lost. So the drug no longer serves this purpose. And if you think about that idea, then really the goal of recovery should be go get a life. This is what the great Viktor Frankl would say. Dr. Wong, on whose work we base a lot of our program at the Sunshine Coast, he would agree with that completely. So the idea is, what I want to do, what I want to gain by quitting the drugs is to get this better life so that I can wake up in the morning energized, feeling vital, feeling excited about the day. But it's very curious that a lot of people who come to an addiction treatment facility or go through an addiction treatment program, they have the idea that their goal, their mission, is to quit drugs. And I recall talking to one client, and I asked him, well, why'd you come here? And he said exactly that. He said, I wanted to abstain from drugs. And I said to him, well, that's about the silliest idea I've ever heard. And he was a bit taken aback. I did it for a bit of theatrical effect. But the idea was to make this point to him that his goal was not abstinence. His goal was actually to lead a good life. And if along the way towards pursuing this good life, he figured out that using drugs wasn't helping him, then he would consider quitting. In other words, it's this goal this idea of getting a life is the most important. And then the method, maybe going to recovery meetings, maybe visiting the dentist, going to the doctor, maybe getting a new job, but not to mistake the method for the goal, which by the way is pretty common in our century. In fact, one of the funniest ones that one fellow pointed out was that people actually go into debt to buy a luxury car, which is the symbol of wealth. So we're forever mistaking the goal for all sorts of things that really are to do with methods or symbols or things like that. At any rate, this point then of having to understand what the real goal of recovery is. That's why our psychiatrists, when the clients leave, will tell them very clearly, your goal is not to focus on quitting the drugs. Your goal is to get a life. If you focus on quitting the drugs, what you'll discover very quickly is that all your cravings are going to get intensified because that's where you're putting your energy. And this actually is true, and Viktor Frankl actually said the same thing. He said you have to keep your eye on the prize, keep pursuing whatever it is you want to pursue. And yes, things will get in the way, but you don't focus on the depression, you don't focus on the anxiety, you don't focus on the uncomfortability. You keep the focus on the prize and keep moving towards that. Because if you ever start putting the focus on the depression or the anxiety or the drug cravings, then all that will do is intensify all that. So it's an interesting way of looking at things. Anyway, that's it for this episode, and we'll be back next time with our final episode on why do people relapse after they complete treatment.